On April 27, 2011, it was only the beginning.
Phil Campbell 3 to 911. I got rotation coming through Phil Campbell right now.
There ain't where I'm at.
The storm's roar grew louder and louder. Families rushed into shelters. But suddenly, the roof was torn off. The tragedy didn't stop there. 73 more lives were lost that day. On April 25th, severe storms swept across the southern plains and the lower Mississippi Valley. It was frightening to realize that these storms spawned tornadoes for most of Arkansas, as well as parts of Missouri, Oklahoma, Texas, and Louisiana, including several EF5s that damaged homes and businesses. But the worst part was that this was only the beginning. The next day, April 26th, the outbreak moved east into the Tennessee and Ohio valleys, where another 55 tornadoes touched down across the U.S. At first, they seemed like isolated events, damaging homes, power lines, and roads. But in reality, they were setting the stage for what would become the most terrifying day of all. 27th of April 2011. 3 a.m. The first tornado touched down near Scottsville, Marion County. A rated an EF3 twister destroyed many homes across Marion and Franklin County, and also caused the first fatality of the day. After the first tornado, several more formed through the early morning. As the afternoon progressed, weather conditions across the southeast became increasingly unstable. As a result, the SPC was upgraded to high risk for severe weather. Around 10 p.m., 1:45 p.m., the Storm Prediction Center issued a particularly dangerous situation tornado watch for much of Alabama and parts of Mississippi, Tennessee, and Georgia. Soon after, clusters of supercell thunderstorms developed across Mississippi and Alabama, and several of them began producing strong and violent tornadoes. 2:40 p.m., in Alabama, a strong multi-vortex twister touched down on the north side of Lewis Smith Lake as it tracked towards Coleman. The intensity reached an EF3, resulting in numerous trees being snapped and houses being swept away.
Several tower cameras caught the tornado live in action, watching it intensify to a terrifying EF4 as it tore through downtown Coleman. Moving through Julio, Ruth, and Arab, the vortex destroyed everything in its path until dissipating southeast of New Hope. It was one of the first signs that this outbreak was about to become historic. 3:05 p.m., another tornado touched down 5 miles southwest of Hamilton in Marion County, Alabama. It began moving to the northeast, leaving behind a trail of damage. In the beginning, the twister ranged between EF1 and EF2, but as it approached U.S. Highway 43, it took a monstrous turn, intensifying rapidly to EF4 strength. The homes and brick structures of southwest Hackleburg were no match for the screeching winds of up to 170 miles per hour, and many crumbled to the ground. But this was just the beginning. The twister began moving towards Hackleburg, running parallel to Highway 43, and intensified again, this time to an EF5 strength, with winds up to 210 miles per hour and a width of 0.75 miles. When a violent tornado approached Hackleburg, Tabitha Kelly Harper begged her fiancé, Chris Dunn, to join her in the shelter. He refused, saying he wasn't afraid. The tornado struck their neighborhood. Tabitha survived underground. When she emerged, everything was gone. Dunn's body was found 200 yards away near a creek, and their pit bull bear was found in a nearby tree. 3:24 p.m., the windstorm continued towards the heart of Hackleburg, ripping asphalt off the ground and leveling structures completely. Most of the structures in downtown Hackleburg were badly damaged, including Hackleburg High School and Elementary School. Several subdivisions and businesses also faced the storm's unrelenting wrath. Piggly Wiggly, the only grocery store in Hackleburg, was left in a terrible state. But the manager, Dennis Whitfield, was lucky and survived by hiding under the produce rack.
It also crushed the massive Wrangler plant, Hackleburg's biggest employer. Many second-shift workers escaped, but office supervisor Linda Knight was killed when a roof beam collapsed. Jeans from the Wrangler factory were later found 40 miles away in Cortland, Alabama, showing the tornado's immense power. As the twister moved across Hackleburg, it tossed vehicles up to 200 yards. One well-built home with 4 brick sides was completely leveled, and the debris from the home was tossed over 40 yards to the north. Several churches, including Emmanuel Baptist Church, laid waste in the windstorm's path. 21-year-old Tommy Quinn rode out the storm in a shelter with his family. It was the most terrifying 15 seconds of his life. When he finally stepped outside, their family home was gone, except for one living room wall. The Red Cross concluded that almost 75% of the buildings in Hackleburg were destroyed along the 25.14-mile tornado path. The Marion County coroner, Randy Jackson, spent 3 days dealing with the dead bodies. The deadly winds left 3 victims in an unrecognizable state. Even Mayor Gunnan, who was born and raised in Hackleburg, could not figure out who they were. The Hackleburg tornado, which was the first EF5 tornado in Alabama since the 1998 Birmingham tornado, claimed 18 lives and destroyed many more. 3:28 p.m., after ravaging Hackleburg, the winds moved northeast and continued to parallel Highway 43 until crossing into Franklin County. By this time, the twister had widened to a deathly 1.22 miles and was traveling at an estimated forward speed of 69 miles per hour. The winds damaged 3 miles of vegetation and trees before crossing Woodward Road, located to the southeast of Phil Campbell. The twister still displayed an intensity of EF5 as it continued moving closer to the town, destroying more houses on its way. Significant damage was observed from the interaction of County Road 51 and Alabama Highway 237 to the intersection of County Road 81 and County Road 75.
The 2-mile-wide corridor on either side of the railroad tracks was also severely hit, and the tornado leveled several well-constructed homes. Ralph Wright lived on Highway 237. As the tornado approached, he and his family took cover in a concrete storm cellar inside their home. The winds tore away at the house and even ripped off the cellar's concrete roof, exposing them to the storm. They survived, but the home was destroyed. The roof was later found where the house once stood. 3:34 p.m. The tornado eventually tore through Phil Campbell, wiping many homes from their foundations on Brown Street, located just east of downtown. Bonner Street, which runs parallel to Brown Street, had several small blocks of homes. But after the tornado passed, almost the entire block was destroyed. A 25-foot section of pavement was also sucked up and scattered. Chunks of the pavement were found in a home over a third of a mile down the road. The monster damaged 3 churches in Phil Campbell, destroying one of them completely except for a slab that was left behind. After taking 2 more lives, the storm exited Phil Campbell towards the northeastern side, roughly along County Roads 81 and 82, and towards the rural community of Oak Grove. By this time, the tornado had reached its peak width at more than a mile and EF5 intensity. 4:42 p.m. The twister unleashed its full fury as it struck Oak Grove along County Roads 38 and Smith Lane. A large, well-constructed home with extensive anchoring was razed, with debris carried well away from the site. A Corvette sports car was mangled and thrown around 640 feet, and a large vehicle was missing. A block home along Smith Lane was wiped out entirely, with the only thing left standing being a small piece of the metal truss of a chicken house. Exiting the Oak Grove community, the tornado continued into Lawrence County while still maintaining its EF5 strength. 3:15 p.m. The tornado struck Mount Hope. Many single-family homes in Mount Hope's restaurant stood in the wind's path, and when they finally struck, nothing but foundations and piles of debris remained in the area. Mobile homes in Mount Hope also faced the full force of the storm, many of which were destroyed or had their frames mangled. Some residents were quick to take shelter, and others were spared. One of those families ran inside a storm pit and shut the door moments before disaster struck. Just 12 seconds later, the storm wiped out everything around, trapping all 11 of them inside with a power pole. Fortunately, the pit's concrete walls and steel door didn't cave in, and they managed to survive. Gary Dobb, meteorologist of Way TV, lived in Mount Hope with his wife. Knowing that the 27th of April would be dangerous, he sent her to her parents' home in Decar while he worked at the station. Around 3:15 p.m., he returned home for rest, but soon heard reports of a tornado near Phil Campbell and Hackleburg. Realizing it could reach Mount Hope, he went back on air from his home and saw a massive wall cloud moving over Bankhead Forest. When the tornado appeared just 50 yards away, he ran for the safe room behind his house, but the storm was too fast. Before he reached it, his car slammed onto the roof.
Pecan trees shattered the windows, and the walls blew apart. While his house was destroyed completely, Gary survived by taking cover inside a closet at the last minute. Further northeast, the damage was slightly less intense, with more trees snapped and twisted as the tornado reached Highway 24. It seemed like the tornado was finally losing steam. It continued northeast near the Langtown community north of Moulton. On the west side of Alabama Highway 33, several homes sustained significant damage, with roofs missing or only interior rooms remaining.
The relief was short-lived as the storm intensified again to a high-end EF4 as it moved into County Roads 214 and 298, where it destroyed multiple houses and mobile homes. Several cars were tossed into fields and wrapped around trees along County Road 291 and 292. The tornado continued a short stretch through the northeast corner of Morgan County, crossing Wheeler Lake and into Limestone County, coming as close as 2 miles to the Browns Ferry nuclear power plant. After toppling nearly a dozen high-voltage power lines in Limestone County and snapping concrete poles at their bases, the tornado headed towards the small county of Tanner. When the monstrous EF4 finally struck Tanner, there was destruction everywhere. The storm completely swept away several well-constructed homes with anchor bolting. One of those houses was scattered over 300 yards, with large items carried to unimaginable distances. The storm also tossed a large cargo container around 600 yards, and Medicar stayed airborne for hundreds of yards, crossing US 72. The twister continued into East Limestone, a more populated area of Limestone County. Moving at an intensity of EF3, the storm tore through a subdivision at the corner of McCully Mill Road and Capshaw Road, crossing into Madison County. The storm struck the suburban communities of Harvest and Tony. Many houses in Harvest, especially in the Anderson Hills subdivision, were damaged or destroyed entirely. A Piggly Wiggly grocery store, a convenience store, and a local bank were all severely damaged and remained closed for months after the catastrophic event. The twister tore through multiple weakly anchored homes at an EF3 intensity until weakening rapidly to an EF0 southwest of Hazel Green and dissipating near Gladstone at 4:50 p.m. When rescue teams finally reached all the affected areas, the real damage became apparent.
The Hackleburg Phil Campbell tornado remained active for 102 miles, the third longest track tornado of the entire outbreak. This violent storm claimed 71 lives, making it the deadliest single tornado ever to strike Alabama. In just minutes, entire neighborhoods vanished, families were torn apart, and the landscape itself was changed forever. Its fury was so unmatched that it became the deadliest U.S. tornado since the 1955 UD Doll, Kansas disaster, a haunting reminder of nature's power and how a single storm can leave scars that never fade.